From the outside, Marcus Thorne's life looked untouchable. Private jets parked like taxis, a mansion so big it echoed when no one spoke, meetings that decided the fate of thousands with a single nod. People thought a man like that had everything patterned out. But what no one ever saw was how quiet his house felt at night. How success didn't help when his 9-year-old son, Ethan, stood frozen in the hallway, hands pressed tight over his ears, breathing too fast, eyes locked on a world that felt too loud for him. Marcus could buy anything, except a way inside his own child's world. They said Ethan was autistic. Doctors explained it clinically. Specialists charged a fortune. Schedules were color-coded, routines timed to the minute. Yet every time Marcus tried to connect, it felt like knocking on a door that never opened. And that, more than any business failure, rattled him. What Marcus didn't know was that someone had already noticed the pattern. Someone he'd barely looked at twice. Marcus liked things controlled, predictable. His club reflected that. Marble floors, soft lighting, conversations that never rose above polite murmurs. The kind of place where nothing unexpected was meant to happen. That's why he brought Ethan there. It felt safe, ordered, quiet enough, he hoped. Ethan stayed close, fingers twitching at the seams of his jumper, eyes darting at reflections bouncing off polished surfaces. Marcus walked ahead, already thinking about the meeting he'd stepped away from, trusting that the carers trailing behind would manage if anything went sideways. And then there was Sam. Samuel Jones. Black, mid-30s, tall, calm, always positioned just slightly out of the main view. Lead security, though you wouldn't guess it by the way he moved. No chest-out authority, no unnecessary barking of orders, just presence. Solid. Observant. The kind of man who noticed what others missed because he wasn't busy being noticed himself. Sam clocked Ethan weeks ago, noticed how he flinched at sudden sounds, how he relaxed when the lights dimmed in the evenings, how rhythm, footsteps, tapping, even the hum of the air system seemed to steady him. Sam didn't say anything, that wasn't his place. He just watched, filed it away. Marcus never noticed Sam noticing. The moment everything shifted didn't come with drama. No shouting, no scene, just a sharp, unexpected crash. A waiter dropped a tray. Metal on marble, glass shattering. The sound ricocheted through the room like a gunshot. Ethan froze, then crumpled inward, hands over his ears, knees buckling as panic rushed in all at once. The calm Marcus had paid for evaporated in seconds. Marcus turned, heart jumping. "Ethan, hey, it's all right," he said, voice tight, trying to keep control. He crouched, speaking softly but urgently, already feeling eyes on him. He hated that part, hated how exposed it made his son, hated how helpless it made him feel. The carers rushed forward, murmuring practiced reassurances. Too many voices, too much movement. Sam didn't move at first. Instead, he reached up and subtly dimmed the nearest light panel, shifted his body to block the foot traffic passing behind Ethan. No commands, no spotlight, just small changes. Then he stepped into Ethan's peripheral view and stayed completely still. Ethan's breathing didn't slow straight away, but it didn't spiral either. And then his eyes flicked, not to his dad, not to the carers, to Sam. Marcus saw it, just for a second, and that second lodged itself in his chest. Ethan didn't calm instantly. This wasn't some miracle moment, but the panic plateaued. His hands loosened, his rocking slowed. Sam stayed exactly where he was, gaze soft, posture neutral, like he was saying without words, "I'm not here to rush you, mate." Eventually, Ethan stood. Didn't speak, didn't smile, just steadied. Marcus exhaled, realizing he'd been holding his breath. He thanked the carers distractedly, ushered Ethan away, and tried to shake the feeling that something important had just happened, something he didn't fully understand. Sam returned to his post like nothing had occurred, but Marcus couldn't stop thinking about it. Days passed, then weeks. Marcus started noticing Sam in the background of moments he'd previously written off as chaos. He saw how Sam adjusted the environment before problems kicked off, how he moved with intention, not authority, how he never forced interaction with Ethan, yet somehow always seemed to be exactly where Ethan needed him to be. One afternoon, Marcus watched Sam slip a small object on a table Ethan always passed. A soft, textured fidget. No explanation, no announcement. Ethan picked it up without hesitation, rolling it between his palms as he walked. Marcus frowned. He hadn't seen that toy before. None of the specialists had suggested it. He realized, with a strange mix of admiration and discomfort, that Sam had been learning his son, quietly, respectfully, without permission. The breakthrough came on a day Marcus was already worn thin. Ethan was agitated from the moment they arrived. Too many changes, too much noise. His routine was off, and Marcus could feel the meltdown brewing like a storm he didn't know how to redirect. He tried everything. Calm voice, space, distraction. Nothing landed. Ethan dropped to the floor, fists clenched, rocking hard now, breath ragged. Marcus felt that familiar panic rise, the one that made him feel like a failure no matter how many zeros were in his bank account. And then Sam was there. He didn't ask, didn't announce himself. He simply knelt, not in front of Ethan, but slightly to the side, lowered himself to the child's level without invading his space. Sam started humming, barely audible, a low, steady rhythm. Then he tapped his fingers softly against his knee. 1, 2, 1, 2. Consistent, predictable. Ethan resisted at first, then slowed. His rocking matched the rhythm, his breathing followed. Marcus frozen, watching from a distance, heart pounding. Ethan turned his head. Not fully, just enough. His gaze settled on Sam's tapping fingers. After a long moment, Ethan reached out. Didn't touch Sam, just placed his hand near his knee, close enough to feel the rhythm. The room seemed to hold its breath. Marcus felt something inside him crack. He'd spent millions trying to solve this, yet here was a man in a uniform, earning a fraction of Marcus's daily interest, speaking a language Marcus had never bothered to learn. Not words, presence. Marcus didn't interrupt, didn't step in. For once, he did nothing. And it worked. Ethan calmed, fully, slowly rose, stayed close to Sam for a few seconds longer than necessary, then wandered off, fidget in hand, humming faintly. Sam stood, nodded politely, and returned to position, like it was nothing, like it was everything. Marcus approached Sam later that evening, not as an employer, not as a billionaire, just a father who finally admitted he didn't know what he was doing. "How did you know?" Marcus asked quietly. Sam hesitated, then shrugged. "Didn't know, sir. Just watched. Kids tell you what they need if you listen without trying to fix them." Marcus swallowed. Sam spoke about his cousin, about growing up learning patience the hard way, about understanding that control wasn't connection. He didn't lecture, didn't accuse, didn't make Marcus feel small. And somehow, that changed everything. After that conversation, Marcus didn't suddenly become a different man. Change didn't hit him like a lightning bolt. It crept in quietly, the way real shifts always do. The next time Ethan flinched at a noise, Marcus didn't rush in with words. He waited, watched. He remembered what Sam said. Kids tell you what they need if you listen without trying to fix them. Marcus lowered himself slowly, off to the side, copying Sam's posture. No eye contact, no pressure, just presence. It felt awkward, unnatural, like trying to write with his non-dominant hand. But Ethan didn't pull away. That tiny win stuck with Marcus all day. At the club, Sam noticed the change before anyone else. The way Marcus lingered now, the way he paid attention to lighting, movement, sound. He didn't say anything, just clocked it with a small nod, like he'd expected it all along. Ethan started gravitating towards Sam more openly, sitting near his post, mimicking his tapping, humming the same low rhythm without realizing it. Staff members whispered about it, curious but cautious. Marcus shut that down quickly. This wasn't entertainment. This was his son finding balance. And for the first time in years, Marcus wasn't embarrassed by that. One evening, when the club was quieter than usual, Ethan did something that stopped Marcus in his tracks. He reached for Sam's hand. Not fully, just 2 fingers brushing against Sam's knuckles. Sam froze for half a second, then relaxed, letting Ethan set the pace. Marcus felt his chest tighten. Ethan didn't touch people like that, not ever. And Sam didn't pull away. No one spoke, no one moved. The moment passed as gently as it arrived. But Marcus knew this wasn't coincidence anymore. This was connection. Marcus began asking questions, not medical ones, human ones. How do you do when he shuts down like that? How do you know when to step in? How do you stay so calm? Sam answered honestly. No big theories, no fancy terms, just lived experience. Patients learn the hard way, mistakes made and corrected, understanding that some people don't need fixing, they need space. Marcus listened, really listened, and it dawned on him how rarely he'd done that in his own life. At home, things shifted. Marcus stopped scheduling every minute of Ethan's day, left pockets of quiet, let routines breathe. When Ethan got overwhelmed, Marcus didn't rush to end it. He stayed, sometimes in silence, sometimes just tapping a rhythm on the sofa. Some days it worked, some days it didn't, but Ethan started meeting him halfway. The real test came when Marcus took Ethan somewhere new, somewhere loud, somewhere unpredictable. A charity event. Big room, too many voices, flashing cameras. The kind of place Marcus thrived in, and Ethan struggled to survive. Halfway through, Ethan froze. The familiar signs rolled in fast. Marcus felt panic rise, old instincts screaming at him to scoop him up and escape, but Sam wasn't there. For the first time, Marcus had to do this alone. He crouched, shifted to the side, hummed, tapped, gave Ethan space without abandoning him. People stared, Marcus didn't care. Slowly, painfully slowly, Ethan steadied. Marcus exhaled, realizing something huge. Sam hadn't just helped his son, he'd taught Marcus how to be a father on his child's terms. When Marcus told Sam about it later, Sam smiled. Proper smile this time. "Told you," he said softly. "You already had it in you." Marcus shook his head. "Nah, I just finally learned to see." What Marcus did next surprised everyone, especially Sam. He didn't make a speech, didn't post a video, didn't turn it into some PR moment. Instead, he quietly changed things. Club policies shifted, staff training focused on sensory awareness, flexible spaces were introduced, not just for Ethan, for anyone who needed them. Sam remained a guard, same uniform, same role, but everything around him was different now. The shift didn't stay quiet for long. People around Marcus started noticing he was different. Meetings ended earlier, he listened more than he spoke, he stopped cutting people off mid-sentence like time owed him something. The man who once controlled rooms now shared space. And somehow, it all traced back to a kid who hummed when the world got too loud, and a guard most people still walked past without a second glance. Ethan changed too, not in some dramatic overnight way, but in small, unmistakable moments. He stayed in rooms longer, he didn't bolt at every sharp sound, he began initiating tiny routines, tapping twice before sitting, humming before eating, patterns that grounded him. Marcus followed his lead now, not the other way round. One afternoon, Marcus overheard something that stopped him cold. Two guests at the club, low voices, thought they were out of earshot. "That guard's got a bit too close to the kid, hasn't he?" "Yeah, bit unprofessional if you ask me." Marcus felt that old instinct rise, the one that protected image over people. Then he looked at Ethan, calm, focused, safe. And for the first time, Marcus didn't hesitate. "He's doing his job," Marcus said evenly, stepping into view. "Better than anyone else ever has." The room went quiet. Sam never even knew that conversation happened, but Marcus did, and that mattered. Marcus started inviting Sam into conversations he'd never imagined before, not as staff, as perspective. They talked about patience, about masculinity, about how men were taught to fix instead of feel. Sam spoke about growing up learning when to speak and when silence said more, about being seen as capable only when invisible. Marcus listened, properly this time. It wasn't guilt that sat with him, it was clarity. Then came the day everything almost fell apart. Ethan had a full shutdown. Not at the club, not at home, at Marcus's office. Glass walls, open plan, phones ringing, too many voices stacking on top of each other. Ethan curled into himself, panic surging fast. Staff froze. No one knew what to do. Marcus felt the pressure of 100 eyes, employees, executives, people who'd never seen this side of him. Old Marcus would have panicked, apologized, escaped. Instead, he waved everyone back. He knelt, shifted to the side, started the rhythm. It took time, longer than Marcus wanted, longer than was comfortable, but Ethan came back. When it was over, the room stayed silent, not awkward, respectful. No one clapped, no one spoke, and somehow that silence felt like progress. Later that evening, Marcus sat alone in his office, city lights blinking below. He thought about how many moments he'd missed chasing control, how many times he assumed power meant distance. Sam knocked lightly at the door. "Sir, just checking everything's all right." Marcus looked up. "You ever think how mad life is?" he said quietly. "How the biggest lessons come from places you weren't even looking?" Sam smiled faintly. "Happens all the time. Most people just don't notice." What Marcus did next wasn't loud, but it rippled further than any announcement ever could. He set up a foundation, not in his son's name, not in his own. Quiet funding for sensory-safe spaces, training for staff, support systems for families who couldn't afford specialists or time off work. No press release, no headlines. Sam found out by accident. Marcus didn't frame it as charity. "It's investment," he said, "just not the kind I used to care about." Ethan and Sam's connection never turned into anything showy. No grand gestures, no big moments for cameras. Just consistency. A nod when they saw each other, a shared rhythm, a mutual understanding that didn't need words. Marcus watched from a distance now, not hovering, not interfering, trusting. Years later, Marcus would be asked in an interview what changed his life. People expected a deal, a loss, a turning point measured in money. He spoke instead about a quiet afternoon, a dropped tray, a guard who didn't rush in, a child who finally felt seen, and how it taught him that the strongest connections aren't forced, they're felt. Because sometimes, the person who changes everything isn't the one with the power, it's the one who notices what everyone else ignores. The days after that interview didn't turn Marcus into some saint overnight. If anything, they tested him harder. People started asking questions, not rude ones, curious ones. Board members, investors, old mates who'd known him back when ambition mattered more than patience. They noticed the changes, the way meetings paused when noise levels spiked, the way Marcus sometimes stepped out mid-discussion because Ethan needed him. A few eyebrows were raised, a few jokes made quietly behind closed doors. Marcus clocked all of it, and for the first time in his life, he didn't care. One morning, Ethan refused to leave the house. No meltdown, no tears, just flat refusal. Sitting on the stairs, hands folded, staring at nothing, Marcus tried everything. Calm words, space, humor. Nothing landed. The old Marcus would have canceled his day and handed it off to someone else. Instead, he sat down beside Ethan. Same level, same silence. Minutes passed. 10. 15. Then Ethan reached out and tapped twice on the stair, a rhythm Marcus recognized instantly. Marcus tapped back. Ethan stood up. That was it. No words, no drama. Marcus stayed seated for a second longer, letting it sink in. This wasn't progress you could measure on a chart, but it was real. At the club, Sam noticed Ethan no longer searched for him the same way. The reliance had softened, not disappeared, just matured. That's how it's meant to be, Sam thought. He didn't feel replaced. He felt proud. Marcus thanked him one evening, tried to put it into words, failed. Sam waved it off. Kid did the work himself, you just listened this time. Not everyone approved. A senior executive cornered Marcus one afternoon. Polite smile, tight jaw. You're letting this situation affect productivity. Marcus didn't raise his voice, didn't flex power. He simply replied, if my company can't make room for humanity, it doesn't deserve to grow. That conversation traveled faster than Marcus expected, and strangely, it didn't scare people off. It drew them in. Parents started writing in. Quiet emails, long messages, stories about kids who struggled in silence, about workplaces that didn't bend, about how seeing someone like Marcus adapt, not explain, not excuse, but adapt, made them feel less alone. Marcus read every single one. Some nights, he cried. Ethan started spending time in Marcus's office after school, drawing, lining up pens, humming softly while Marcus worked. The glass walls stayed, but now they felt different. They weren't barriers anymore. They were boundaries that let light through. One late afternoon, Marcus found Sam sitting alone in the staff room staring at his phone. Everything all right? Marcus asked. Sam hesitated, then admitted his wife had been struggling. Work hours, pressure, life stacking up. Marcus listened, didn't interrupt, didn't solve. A week later, Sam's schedule shifted. Better hours, more stability. No announcement, no favor owed. Just respect returned. Years passed. Ethan grew taller, quieter in some ways, braver in others. He learned how to self-regulate, how to advocate in his own way, how to exist without apology. Marcus learned to follow rather than lead. Sam remained steady, same dignity, same calm, different impact. One evening, long after the club had emptied, Marcus watched Ethan and Sam sit together, not because Ethan needed help, but because he wanted company. No humming, no tapping. Just presence. Marcus realized then that the unseen connection everyone talked about wasn't just between a guard and a child. It was between who he'd been and who he'd finally allowed himself to become. Sometimes life doesn't change you with noise or force. Sometimes it kneels beside you quietly, waits, and shows you how to listen. And as Marcus watched his son and Sam together, he finally understood sometimes the quietest presence can change a life forever. Marcus had started noticing the small stuff more than ever. The way Ethan hummed quietly while lining up his crayons. The way he tapped twice before sitting at the breakfast table. The way his gaze lingered a fraction longer on Sam than anyone else. Marcus caught himself smiling at the little victories that had never registered before. One afternoon, they went to a local charity event, not because Marcus wanted publicity, not for social appearances, but because Sam suggested it quietly. "It's not about them seeing him," Sam said. "It's about him seeing the world safely." The room was busy, voices overlapping, flashing cameras. Ethan froze, almost immediately. Marcus felt that old familiar panic rise. But this time, he didn't panic. He stayed beside his son. He guided him gently, not rushed, not overbearing. And for the first time, Marcus realized he was relying on what Sam had taught him. Ethan found a quiet corner, and Marcus stayed close. Sam noticed them and silently joined, not hovering, just present. He hummed softly, just low enough for Ethan to catch. Ethan smiled faintly. And in that moment, Marcus understood this wasn't about controlling the world. It was about allowing his son to navigate it, step by step, with guidance, not force. Later, as they left, a few parents approached Marcus, whispering, curious. "How did you manage?" Marcus smiled, shaking his head. "Luck? Nah, just listening for once," he said quietly. Sam stayed a few steps behind. No one noticed him, but Marcus did. He nodded, silent thanks. Because sometimes the person who changes everything doesn't make a scene. That night, back home, Marcus reflected. He realized the invisible walls he had built, his empire, his routines, even his wealth, had protected nothing but his own pride. And for the first time, he didn't mind tearing them down. The unseen connection between Sam, Ethan, and Marcus had grown, not in a day, not in a dramatic gesture, but slowly, quietly, deeply. It taught Marcus what no amount of money ever could. True wealth wasn't in bills, assets, or titles. It was in patience, understanding, presence. It was in noticing the unnoticed. It was in listening when the world insisted on shouting. And sometimes the people who teach us the most are those we least expect, quietly changing our lives one small step at a time.